Okay, Mr. Chair, we're all set.
Okay, it is 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Take the attendance, please. Approval of the agenda. Before we approve the agenda, I'd like to add one item, number 8. I think it's number 8. No, it'll be number 9, and adjournment will be moved to 10. It's an economic development funding staff report that was distributed today, I believe, by John. So I just want to add that to the agenda before the agenda is moved. How's that? So approve the agenda.
Judy.
Moved by Judy Wilson, seconded by Bob Powell. Ending on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, I didn't ask the question, did I? Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Conflict of interest disclosure. I'll turn that over to John Smith, please. Your report.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to the to the directors. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So this each and every year, it's the commission. The directors will be involved in various issues that will be having to make decisions around allocation expenditures of considerable amounts of money, purchasing items, for example, a heavy piece of equipment, awarding of contracts, etc. So the issue here is the annual conflict of interest declaration. And there may be an occasion where a director or senior staff could be in a conflict of interest because of a personal or family or corporate interest that may be related to activities of the commission. So under section 21 of our regulation, it outlines who is covered by the conflict of interest provisions and directors and certain designated staff. And it's also designated employees, I guess. It also defines when a conflict of interest occurs and the circumstances where a conflict of interest exists or applies not only to a director, but also extends to his or her family, which includes a spouse, parent, child, brother, or sister. And in that particular piece, in terms we should keep in mind, subsection 21(7) of the regulation, which specifies the following. A member of the board or a designated employee shall not accept any fees, gifts, gratuities, or other benefit that could reasonably be seen to influence any decision made by him or her in carrying out his or her functions as a member of the board or employee of the commission. Or B, for his or her personal gain or for personal gain of a family or associate, in any way for his or her position of any privileged information to which he or she may have access, or to which he or she is privy because of his or her position. So normally what we do is we have the regulation also specifies that where a director has a potential conflict in a matter related to this area would be discussed at the board meeting. Usually in the start of each board meeting, the chair will call for a conflict of interest disclosure and people will disclose. So it's always best that it's at the beginning. So the agendas are distributed in advance, so people should know what's on the agenda, should be able to read the staffing reports. And if you see a conflict, please raise it. Also, we're asking that you sign in your package was Appendix A, which is the Capital Service Commission Statement of Disclosure. And it just asks you to affirm that you have received and read the procedural bylaw that was attached to your package this evening. And a commission, and specifically those provisions related to conflict of interest, and agree to comply with the provisions. And it has a place for disclosures. And if yes, describe, and if no, please, expect, if you do expect to have one, if yes or no, please describe that. Please familiarize yourself with bylaw P9 of the conflict of interest within that. And within our bylaw. And then there's also what they call Form 3, which is part of your package. And Form 3 is a statement disclosing a conflict of interest up front in terms of that. So if there's ever anything that you have that we would consider a conflict of interest, within that, you can fill that form out. We'll file that with our board secretary, Kelly Shaw. And if you could fill those 2 forms out, if there's anything that you need to have, please let us know, and we will supply that to the board secretary. On that, I know that's kind of the abbreviated version. Would anybody have any questions to raise, or any questions or concerns in order to clarify anything around conflict of interest? So if we could have those forms filled out and back to Kelly, hopefully by end of week, that would be fantastic. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it's back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, John. Moving on, adoption of minutes. Motion to accept the December 6th, 2022 minutes, please. Moved by.
So moved, Dale.
Moved by Dale Morey, seconded by
Bob Powell.
seconded by Bob Powell. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to the January 12th, 2023 meeting, moved by
David Duplessis.
David Duplessis, seconded by
Judy,
Judy Wilson Shi. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. January 28th, 2023. Before we do that, it was brought to our attention that there is a little bit of an issue, nothing serious. But it says on the election of the vice chair, section 5 of that, it says Judy Wilson Shi was nominated by acclamation. It should read Judy Wilson Shi was elected by acclamation. Kelly is going to make a correction in the minutes to cover that. So there's, in my mind, and I'm not a lawyer, in my mind, there's two ways that we can deal with that. We can deal with it under the assumption that the amendment's going to be made, or we can vote on the minutes as they currently stand, and in question, we could raise the point about the error, correct it, and ask the mover and seconder then to accept that and vote on that. So I don't want to make it that difficult, but that's two options in my mind.
I think we can assume the correction is going to be made.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I've already made the correction. I can share my screen if you like.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm good. So
I would suggest we just go with the amendment and vote on it.
okay, do I have a mover?
I so moved.
Was amended.
It was moved by David Duplessis, seconded by,
Seconded by Tim Fox.
oh, sorry, I couldn't see your face. Seconded by Tim Fox. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to meeting protocols. John Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the directors. So the issue here is we're trying to determine virtual versus in-person meeting protocols, as well as consideration of the March meeting date and the school's March break in the province of New Brunswick. So basically, since the beginning of the pandemic, most of the meetings have been virtual. We have had some in-person meetings in the recent past. In November, we had a kind of a gathering of the previous board and a farewell to some of the members that wouldn't be coming back. On January 28th, of course, just a little more than a week ago, we had our orientation and review session and overview, and that was in person. There have been requests in terms of wanting to go back to in-person meetings, but during the pandemic and even more recently, we've been given strong thought to everything from COVID, the influenza process in the province of New Brunswick, and RSV that's been, I guess, as of yesterday, was considered to be at an all-time high in the province of New Brunswick. So what we're trying to do is look at what is that right balance. So there is a recommended action, but we're looking at, in terms of this, that we would go virtual until April, then in May start with the in-person meetings. We would recommend that'll give us a time to see what's happening with COVID, the flu, and RSV. just to give you an example of why we think that way, in the last 3 to 4 weeks in our office, we had 3 individuals that ended up out with COVID. So I just wanted to, it's still there. It's still affecting people. Some people had a mild headache and a day of uncomfort. Some had 1 to 2 weeks of severe illness in terms of that and trying to get over it. So it's all, obviously we'll follow the direction of the board, but we do have a motion here this evening that would look at, we would meet in person May, June, July, August, and September, and then resume quite possibly virtual meetings in October. And then kind of continue that until we see where we're going with everything that's out there. So, Mr. Chair, I'll leave that to you, but there's also, just on a second before we go to the motion, a recommendation, on the motion. There's also, with regard to the March meeting, we were recommending that we continue to hold the session on the first Tuesday of the month, acknowledging that this may create a conflict for some of the directors. However, you can, you could have an alternate attend. Or we could also, you could also attend virtually. That's happened in the recent past. I think for the audit committee meeting, we had one of our directors out of country and we're able to join virtually. So anyway, so on that doesn't really require a vote. We just recommend that we keep the March meeting, but there is a motion before you for the board to consider.
Thank you. So you see the motion recommended by the staff. Could I have a mover, please?
Bob
Judy.
Powell.
Moved by Judy Wilson-Shee, seconded by
Bob Powell.
Bob Powell. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I slowed down a little bit in the new year. Nobody picked up on it. Okay, moving along. So committee assignments, verbal report.
Okay. So on that, Mr. Chair, so I guess in terms of looking at that and the committee assignments, we would like to invite the directors to express their interest on the committees that we were advanced and were approved at on the January 28th meeting. So we'd be looking at budget and finance. We've created an audit committee, public safety, governance and oversight. And the oversight is for the role of the CEO, so that you can give me advice and guidance on how that's working. And then on economic expansion, which includes economic development, tourism, and infrastructure. And community development, which is the community development inclusive of rural regional transportation, and the social file that will come on board in January 1, 2024 with that. And so we're asking for the directors, if they could, to express their interest in those committee assignments, and we'll have a conversation just after this on the composition of the committees as well. But if we could have that in over the next, I would say, maybe by end of day next Tuesday, maybe give that a week if we could. If that's too short, we could extend that. But we'd like to be able to get those committees set up and running, and then be able to populate them if we could.
Any questions for John on that?
Yeah, just send John in an email on your desires.
If you could, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, sorry. Yes, yeah, sorry. Okay. Yes, Director Morrison, if you could send it in to Kelly, that would be great. And what we'll do is tomorrow we'll just send out a little grid on what the committees are, and ask that the communities that you signal your intention for which committees are of most interest to you and your committee, or your community. Sorry.
Anything else? Okay, moving along to standing.
Mr. Chair, I have a question before we move on. I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment when it comes to committee, but How many committees is one allowed to sit on?
I guess it would depend on, I don't know if there's a maximum or minimum. I guess if you put your name in and for several committees, we'd consider those.
Yeah, I guess
Because
I'm,
there's probably a good cross-reference between the communities, large, small, rural, urban. So yeah, if you have an interest in more than one, certainly, or 3 or 5, put your name in and we will attempt to fill the committees with those best suited for that committee, in our opinion.
fair enough. And I guess my concern is the last item that we have on the agenda, depending on where the directors choose to go, might mean we could appoint multiple people from the same municipality. And then, that technically could mean that I sit on, or the mayor sit on no committees, but we have other representatives sitting, if option 3 comes forward.
Yeah, well,
we might need to consider a limit or something like that. Otherwise, our committees might just be the same representative side as the board as a whole. Anyway, I'll leave that with you.
Yeah.
It's fun to be chair.
Thank you, Greg.
Mr. Chair, if I may, there's also one other item that we needed to address in terms of board members for under the MOU with Ignite.
Night, yeah.
Would you like to address that now, or would you like me to wait?
Yeah, why not now? Before
Okay.
we go. Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the directors, I just wanted to let everyone know under the MOU with Ignite on economic development in section 3, governance, representation and reporting, 3G states that the agency agrees that it shall accept 4 nominations from the commission to its board of directors, which are representative of the capital region. 1 nomination will represent the city of Fredericton, where 65% of the business base in the region is located, and other nominations will be representative of the capital region. And appointments to the agency's board will be reviewed by the commission on a 2-year cycle from the date of appointment, and the chief executive officer of the agency shall ensure consistent and ongoing contact with the chief executive officer of the commission or their designate. And so I've been in touch with Ignite, and I apologize. I had I should have brought this to your attention sooner. Unfortunately, I had it in my mind that we had to discuss it or send out some communication on it before the 10th. But they are looking for the 4 nominations. So Director Erickson, that would, or I guess Deputy Mayor Erickson, that would go as well for the city, so that there would be 4 nominations come from the commission to the board of Ignite. I spoke to their board chair today, and he's agreed to give us a little bit extra time. I apologize again. In the MOU, it said that we were to submit the names by the 10th, but I talked to him and he said, look, if we could have them by the 13th, 14th, no later than the morning of the 15th, that would be terrific. So if we could if you could let us know, and what they're looking for in terms of that is someone with a business acumen, maybe, or an economics background, or they may be looking for, and look, you can obviously nominate a counselor. You could nominate yourself as a director or a director, or someone from the public. They're looking to create some diversity on their board. They're trying to get a broad range of folks that have business background that can bring that economic development piece to it. Or you may even consider somebody from an immigration perspective in your nomination. They will be working on that as well. So I just wanted to raise that with you. So if we could have, if at all possible, your name submitted to Kelly and for the pedal board, of directors, and that will go to the chair and vice chair for decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to the standing committee.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Mr. Chair,
question.
Oh, sorry, Greg. Sorry, go ahead.
John, you mentioned sitting on the pedal board. Was that a slip of the tongue?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Ignite board, the board of
Ah.
Ignite. Sorry, I
That
apologize.
would have been interesting. And you also implied that members that aren't counselors from the municipalities could sit in or be appointed.
Yeah, they're looking for people, what they're really hoping to get. It could be your CAO, it could be you, Director Erickson, or Deputy Mayor Erickson, it could be a counselor, it could be a business person within the community. They're looking to create diversity and a breadth of views at the board level, and hopefully be representative of the geographical area, looking at small and large communities, that type of thing.
Is this 3 with or without Fredericton? 4 with or
This,
without?
yes, Director Duplessis, that's 4 with Fredericton.
Okay,
So Fredericton gets a nomination of their own just because of the sheer volume and size, and then 3 for the region to decide on.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll move to the standing committee composition. Derek?
Yes, just a quick question. What is the composition of that board overall?
I believe Director Pleadwell, what they're looking at is going to a board of 13 individuals, looking at a board from around that encompasses and reflects the region as a whole, and includes things such as diversity, a view, different, obviously, hopefully a gender balance of some sort. I'm sure they're looking at all aspects of everything that we could possibly look at to be reflective of the Capital Region Service Commission area, to bring the different views to their board.
Thank
I
you.
hope that helps. Does that help answer your question? Thank you, sir.
Okay, John, please, standing committee.
Okay. So this is a vote of the board, and this decision is an administrative matter and requires a simple majority to pass. At the January meeting, staff were tasked with examining the composition of the board standing committees and to report back at the earliest opportunity. And looking back over the years, normally it's been the directors of the commission that have populated the board or the standing committees. However, in further reflection and looking at how we are structured, the board may wish to look at that again. But even though it's a specific responsibility of the mayor of a community to participate on the board and committees of the Regional Service Commission, we have to be cognizant of the fact that you have a lot on your plate right now. A lot of you are, 7 are new in here, that within our new framework, and there's a lot on the go with all the mandated services that are coming on board, and getting councils up and running as well. So looking at that, we looked at, we're working on a significant update to the Commission's procedural bylaw. And this is the most extensive revision since the bylaw was established in 2013. And it's required due to significant changes that under the RSC mandates. So we are looking at that, and we're saying that, we would benefit from direction of the board with respect to developing the replacement clause or cause for existing section 3.1.1 for our bylaw. So there are 3 options this evening before the board to consider. The options are number 1, to continue the current practice of limiting participation on its standing committees to directors, accepting those situations as described in legislation, like such as PRAC. Option 2 would be to allow directors to choose themselves or their alternates, but not both, to serve on a standing committee. And when we say not both, we're looking there at having so that we can't have two people on from any one committee on a singular committee. Sorry, just had a dry spot in my throat. And option 3, allow directors to choose themselves or another member of council to serve on a standing committee, but only one per community. So these are, again, to limit the number of votes that any one committee or community could have on a committee. Our recommendation at the time of contemplating this was to look at, option 2, and as recommended, it represents the middle ground between the of what we've done in the past and kind of current. However, we are open in this particular forum this evening to having whatever the desire of the board is, and we can make that work moving forward. Excuse me.
Any comments on that? Derek, please.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for diving into the details of bylaws and acts. It certainly takes a very special group of people to do that type of activity. I count myself as not one of those individuals. One of the things that I had read and looking through this note was kind of an interpretation that having a counselor may be inconsistent with the legislation. And I know we're in a bit of a topsy-turvy time when it comes to legislation and bylaws, where I've heard over and over again that there's some legislation coming, consolidated legislation and whatnot. I just want to get some clarity that that we all feel quite confident and clear that we're not going down any path that would be contravening any legislation that is either in effect now or soon to be in effect. I know that's a bit covering all my bases here, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, if you
Yes,
will,
sir.
we did a little deeper dive today, sir, and looking at that, and we understand that the new legislation that's out there for review does contemplate having a council member be able to sit on that. So, as Director Pleadwell had indicated, that's our understanding as of right now, is that that is in the upcoming act and consolidated act and regulations, and that we should be able to proceed forward with that, and that it was contemplated under local governance reform.
Okay.
I would
so-
ask, I would ask my colleague, Mr. Fitzgerald, if possible. Don, is there anything I need to add to that, or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just to be clear, the act provides an ability now for a council to determine someone other than the deputy mayor to be the mayor's alternate. And that provides flexibility to councils where they can balance workflows. And so the extension of that would be that if we open it to mayors and/or alternates, then that alternate might not necessarily be the deputy mayor.
Thank you. So based on that, the motion that was recommended by staff probably still works then. Greg?
Well, I'm going to jump right in and move that we adopt option 3.
Okay, Derek?
Yeah, and I would just say that, with that clear definition as to alternate now, meaning that it could be either the deputy mayor or another member of council, I don't really see a difference between 2 and 3.
Right.
So I would go with My suggestion would be 3 or 2, unless someone could tell me the difference.
Okay, my silence there was to determine whether or not we should call for a motion, then debate it. But then you're could be defeating motions and it goes on and on and on. So, so could Greg, if you wouldn't mind giving a motion. And I think it's
Sure, I move to direct staff to reflect the intent of option 3 in this report when developing the draft bylaw update for the board to consider.
You heard the motion. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Derek Leadwell. Anything on the question? All those in favor? Sorry.
What is the difference of 2 and 3? I'd like to see Derek's question answered.
I think, this is just me, I think that the word alternate kind of indicated that that would be the deputy mayor, because that's kind of what we've been all along. The alternate of the mayor would be the deputy mayor. So I think that was the intent. But it's not a capital A. So I went with the notion that because it's not a capital A, then it could be an alternate, which could be a council member.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's my view.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Don, please. You're off. You're muted.
there we go.
Yeah.
Sorry. The difference between 2 and 3 is that in 2, it is either the mayor or whoever the council determines to be their alternate. In 3, it could be a councillor who is not their alternate.
Say that again. Sorry.
In option 2,
Mhm.
a community would put forward either its mayor, its director, or the alternate. In 3, the community could put forth either their mayor or another councillor who is not the alternate.
Who is the alternate?
In 3, it's immaterial. So, for example, if a council has four councillors, in option 2, it would be either the mayor or the deputy mayor.
Mhm.
And let's say the deputy mayor is councillor 1. And in option 3, it could be the mayor and councillor 2 or councillor 3.
Okay.
One of. So you're not limited to just the deputy mayor, the alternate in option 3.
Okay.
So I have a question on that, Don.
David?
If you have the mayor and the deputy or the alternate, and neither one can make that meeting, so it could be any of the other councillors could make that particular meeting, or do they have to be named ahead of time?
So, Mr. Chair, it can't be any councillor. If the mayor or if the designated member of the community can't make it, no one else can attend and vote.
That's on 2 or 3?
Both.
Okay, so in 3, you have to designate one of the councillors to be alternate then.
Yes.
Okay,
That's true,
thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So are we all clear?
Mhm.
Motion on the floor is option 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And we have one final staff report that was distributed today or yesterday. I can't remember. John, do you want to move forward on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the directors. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to this. I've been in contact with Petal quite a little bit lately, and we're just, as you know, on January 31st, the province of New Brunswick had announced $40 million in support for economic development. through in New Brunswick through the regional service commissions. And that money is specifically targeted for population growth, labor force participation rate, labor force growth, employment growth, and percentage of newcomers retained. So within that, during in last year and in anticipation of local governance reform, the economic development funding at that time for these particular streams was funded through local agencies. As an example, here in the Fredericton region, it was funded through or flowed through Ignite to provide those services. And as part of the economic development mandated development stream, this money must be used to support those regional activities in these areas. So the funding right now in my preliminary discussions with PEDAL is approximately 3.9 million for the Capital Region Service Commission. And those are for the years from 2023 to 2027, so 4 fiscal years. There may also be a little bit of, or maybe some residual funding that would come back from the current year, depending on how much has been used in the last fiscal. And we'll know that towards in March or a little later. But in that, I'm looking at signing the contract with PEDAL for the Capital Region Service Commission. And once we have our funding solidified, we'll be able to explore that path forward and see what that looks like. And it is for economic development activity. And this funding was anticipated during the development of the 2023 CRSC, or the Capital Region Service Commission budget, and is intended to support that the contribution towards regional economic development. So this report's for information purposes only and does not require a vote, but just wanted to make sure that the members are informed of what's happening, and that we'll come back to you once we have a pathway forward with that. What I really want to do is sign that the agreement, or the contract, if you will, and that way we'll secure our funding, and then we'll be able to develop that path forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You heard John's report. Are there any questions? Tim?
Yes, I guess through you, Chair, to John, do you anticipate that this is going to be additional funding to Ignite, or is this going to be more in line with the more regional activities, I guess?
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the Director Fox, thank you for the question. And when looking at this was money that was anticipated in coming into the commission. Right now, Ignite has been providing those services. And we would, in the agreement, the MOU with Ignite, under section 2, I'll just open it up here so I can refer you to the section 2D. It talks about that the agency agrees, and we agreed as well, that we should make reasonable efforts to negotiate satisfactory terms with the commission, and reaching mutually agreeable terms, we'll enter into a companion agreement with the commission for additional funding provided by the Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor. And so these streams were anticipated, but what we wanted to do, or what was anticipated first, was to get the PEDAL, I want to call it PEDAL, the Ignite plan, which Ignite has been out meeting with all of you and your councils and whomever else you've been inviting to those meetings. They're going to put a plan together, bring it back here, and during that time we'll have conversations with them, but we'll also look at moving forward as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, Director Fox.
Yeah, no, it does. I guess you can probably guess why I'm asking the question. So
yes.
I'll leave it at that.
Judy Wilson-Shee, please.
Okay, and I just need more clarification. So this money for this contract for 2023 to 2027, it will come to the Capital Service, or the Commission, right? And
yes,
then,
it will.
And then is it dispersed out to My Unite for the services they will be providing?
Well, at this point in time, we haven't got that plan forward, fully developed. It was anticipated in that light, yes, Director Wilson Chi. And so that, you know, it was anticipated that we would have that those conversations with Ignite. But at the same time, what it does is it allows us to bring the money into the commission, and it will also allow us to have greater accountability for that funding as well for the region.
Okay, and just say, for some unknown reason that they don't hold up to their end of the contract, then
Mhm.
they don't get that money that was earmarked for that service. Is that correct?
Well, we would put in, we would put in clauses like we did within the MOU to protect the interest of the commission. Yes, at all times, and the members.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Judy,
Moved by Judy,
Second it, Paul.
second by Greg Erickson.
Got it.
Meeting is adjourned. Got the name right. Only took, what, 3 years? Thank you, everybody, for
thank
your
you.
time tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Take care.
Bob Powell, can you call me at my house number just for a minute? 459-3535?
459-33535.
3535. Yes.
Okey dokey.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.